Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Getting Ready for Summer with the Nature Passport app. My name is Severia, and I am the Communications Manager for Transforming Youth Outdoors, also known as TYO. TYO is created to scale the impact of outdoor youth development and transform the lives of youth by providing best practices, tools, and support to individuals and organizations working with youth. We are a technology platform that enables those in the field of outdoor youth programming to learn, share, network, and build upon successes. Membership to TYO is free, and you can sign up at mytyo.org. Our webinar series is just one of the many ways that TYO connects you to experts and valuable learning opportunities like the one we have today. It is my pleasure to welcome Kathy Bradford from IslandWood. Kathy has been teaching, leading programs, and writing curriculum for 8 years and is excited to be applying these experiences to the Nature Passport app. Being a mobile platform, we are really excited to explore this topic, and we are excited to have Kathy here. Kathy, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Severia. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This has been a project that has been near and dear to my heart as I've helped to develop the bulk of the content that, along with my counterpart in Australia, actually, with Nature Play, to develop the content as part of this app. And I'm so excited to share it with you today. So what our goals are for today is we're really going to just give you a brief overview of the app, the goals, the history of the app. We'll do several slides taking you through the different app features. And then at the end, we'll give you some tips and tricks to using this with your constituents. And then at the end, we'll have time for some questions. So we'll go ahead and dive in. First of all, our app was designed with 2 nonprofits, IslandWood, which is based in the greater Seattle area. We have a 250-acre campus on Bainbridge Island, as well as programming that happens throughout the urban Seattle area, and Nature Play Western Australia. The WA stands for Western Australia. And the leadership from these 2 organizations got together and decided to expand on a really successful paper-based program that Nature Play was using in conjunction with the school system in Western Australia. It had reached over 600,000 families and was really well received and was all about creating meaningful and fun experiences in nature. Nature Play is dedicated to increasing time spent outdoors in unstructured ways for kids of all ages. And IslandWood, we are all about education, inclusive and innovative education for the planet. And so together we felt like we could create something that was well designed and would help support families and schools with connecting children with the outdoors. So our target audience, we launched in September. So we've got about 10 months of being live on the App Store. And our target audience is really children aged 7 to 10 and the adults in their lives. So that could be parents, teachers, after-school providers. We tested down to about age 4 and up to age 12. So we found that there's a pretty wide range of ages that can interact in different ways with the app, but we found that 7 to 10 is kind of the sweet spot for this type of app. So the background is, I'm sure many of the people that are participating today can attest to the fact that we see this imbalance between screen time and green time, and that we found that while 98% of parents want their kids to be connected to nature and feel that it is good for them, and the research of course backs this up, that they don't always know how. And so that idea of using technology as an ally and to reconnect children with the outdoors felt like a way to make it not only more accessible, as we're finding that an increasing number of families across the socioeconomic spectrum have access to smart devices. So this is a way to make it more accessible, and it's also a way to meet people where they are, that many people use technology, they turn to technology to answer questions and to increase their own capacity. So this was a way for us to use the technology that's already in people's pockets as a way to connect with the outdoors in meaningful ways. So some of the ways that we envision this being used is really we're thinking about our target audience and our target users being those that have a desire to take children out in nature but don't always know how. And so we envision this being used by classroom teachers as kind of that nugget of experience and hook to get kids interested in a specific subject that can then be built off of in the classroom, and we'll talk a little bit more about how that looks. We also see this being used, we tested it in a variety of after-school environments, and we found it really useful for volunteers or for new staff to start to build their capacity of what to do with kids outside. And then we have partnered with several organizations that already have really strong programming, and this was useful to be used as an extension of the programming that's already in place. So for example, at IslandWood, we offer programming in a variety of settings, variety of lengths, and at the end of our programming, we talk about the app as a way to take IslandWood with them, so that if they value the experience they have, they can continue that journey of discovery and connection with the outdoors through this mediated process through the app. So that's just some of the ways that we envision this being used. So this is something that for organizations that have a lot of experience already doing outdoor programming, this can be a way for you to help take it home and help your participants take that programming home. So a little bit of the theory behind the design. We tried to be really intentional about how we set this up. And so the bulk of the activities are really focused on direct experience, this bubble right here, experience, often tangible, often sensory connection with nature. Additionally, there are elements of information, concepts. This is where the learning kind of comes in. And for me, it often results in more of a perspective shift or an awareness about the outdoors that may not have been there before. And then we combine this with those magic moments, which I really see as being connection with others. All of the activities are really designed to be done in groups or with other people. And we found this in our testing to be really effective when it's adults and children working together. That the research shows that is a really effective way to make contact with the outdoors sticky. Is having a mentoring adult present. Rachel Carson talks about that. Louise Chawla talks about that. So we wanted to make sure that was an intentional part of the app, is creating connection with others. So it's very much designed to be collaborative rather than competitive, although there are elements of gameplay found in it. So the app itself, we found that what is really powerful is there's the ability not only to have activities that you are taken through to kind of provide a structure for an experience, but there's also ways to capture that activity through the technology of a smartphone. So using things like the camera, audio recorder, etc., to have the memory, but then also to be able to capture that memory. So I'm going to go through some of the highlights of the app features. If you already have it downloaded, you're welcome to open it up and follow along with me, and you can make note of any questions so that way we can make sure we get to them at the end. So after a welcome page and a short little tutorial that kind of takes you through some of the features of the app, you arrive at the primary navigational tool, which is the compass. So you'll see that here up at the north we have activities, then we have what we call Safari, which is about nature sightings. And then both of these ways of interacting are then captured in the journal. And then over here we have bookmarks, which is just a quick access to activities that you've already identified as being ones that you want to explore further. So there's kind of really two ways to play, is the way that I think about it. It's the activities and the Safari. And activities are much more structured. They lead you through step-by-step some ideas of things that you can do outside. And the Safari is a little bit more free form, and you're able to, it kind of draws on a child's innate desire to collect. So you take pictures of species. It's all about collecting species and observing and noticing the species that are out there. All right, so we've arranged, so starting with the activities, the North Star of the compass, We have arranged them in what we call content packs. And the reason for that is first, it makes it easier to download. We want this app to be useful outside of Wi-Fi. So this is an easy way to download content and make it available on the phone no matter what you're connected to. And then secondly, it also allows us to be able to host partner content. We thought that was really important, that as we built this, that we made room for all of the other great content that already exists out in the world today that that partners are doing. So you can see that we have not only activities that have been developed by IslandWood and Nature Play, but also some of our partners that are listed here, the Nature Project and Outdoor Classroom Day. And that's something that we continue to grow so that we have a lot of rich content available for users. And I think at this point we have just under 100 activities that are available for download for free on the app right now. So then after you download the packs, they show up in your library. Once you click on a pack, you can see there's associated badges with that pack. It lists all the activities. And with a brief, well, it gives the title and then it gives briefly how long it takes and the difficulty level. And this is a feature that I found really useful, which is the filter feature, which allows you then to be able to filter activities based on the time you have available, maybe the age of the kids that are there, the environment that you find yourself in. So you can imagine if you're doing an hour-long program, you know you have older kids, so you want to make it slightly more adventurous as far as difficulty, and maybe you're in a city park. You can click on those things and filter out the activities that are available and find the ones that are appropriate for that space and time. So looking into the activities, they are set up in steps. There is the option to be able to use things like the camera, an audio recorder. There's a place to take notes. There's counters. There's a species identifier, which integrates with iNaturalist, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But as you go through each experience, there's these options to be able to use the technology on the phone to capture your experience. There's also, I think this is really fun, there's a profile where you can add teammates, and so you can select which teammates were present for any particular experience. Here's an example of one of those widgets, the audio recorder. And then at the end of every activity, there is, you earn a badge. So there's a little bit of a reward for completion. So some of there's a lot of different activities that the content packs are typically themed. So for example, we have one that's all about sensory activities. We have one for rainy day. There's a pack for playing at the beach. Lots of different themes in these content packs. And some of my favorite ones really use the widgets as a way to reflect back on the experience. So for example, there's an activity called Invent a Scent that is about finding different scents in nature and combining them together to make your perfect scent, to make a perfume. And then at the end, after you've come up with a name for your perfume and you've really perfected it, you record a little audio clip that's like a commercial for your perfume to tell the world about your amazing new scent. So that's just an example of the type of activities that are found, and they're really designed to be done in a multitude of different spaces and with minimal gear required. All right, so that's at the activities section. Moving on to Safari, the idea of Safari sightings is really all about observation. And this is a little bit more free form. I find this to be really engaging for kids of all ages. They go out, they find a species, they take pictures of it. We have prompts like, what do you notice, or what do you think it's in this spot to promote inquiry and critical thinking. They have the option to name their species, whatever they want to name it. So you can see I actually went out the other day and found a sea star that I named the purple urchin eater. And you can record if it's making any noises, and all of this is captured in these sightings. And then we have a fun feature where we have integrated with the iNaturalist API so that users can send off their sightings to iNaturalist, where a community of experts will identify the species. So once it's been identified, you can see that I named it Barnabas the barnacle, but it's been identified as a giant acorn barnacle. And then it gives me more information about that species. And not only is this really exciting for the user to be able to find out the scientific name and a little bit more about the species, but it's also useful it contributes to citizen science projects around the world. So for example, I just went tide pooling the other day, took some pictures of sea stars, and this morning they were added to a data set that's around tracking the recovery of sea stars after the wasting sickness, the wasting disease that was affecting them a few years ago. So, so my play is also contributing to citizen science. And then, so both of these types of activities are then captured in the journal. And the journal is arranged as a timeline so that it has the date when the activity took place. We have different icons for if it was an activity or if it was a sighting. All of the badges that you've earned are available there. And then you can click on each of the memories and it will show who participated, as well as any pictures that were taken or recordings that were made. Anything that you interacted with during the activity is then captured in that memory. And kids get really excited when they see their own pictures showing up inside the app. So that's kind of a little rundown of the app itself. I'm going to click on this and take you to some tips and tricks about the app itself. So this is taking us to the naturepassport.org website. There's lots of great information on here that's available to share as needed. So we have a family section that's focused on how families might interact with the app. Some of the things we encourage is that people start close to home, to realize that you don't have to go someplace remote and distant in order to have really enriching experiences outside. That we also encourage them to be ready for any sort of a spontaneous adventure, keep a bag in their car or someplace close to them. We also encourage that we found it really engaging for kids to be able to go through and bookmark activities before you head outdoors. It can be something that they can do in their spare time, to go through, bookmark the ones that they're interested in, and then you have them ready at your fingertips when you're ready for an outdoor adventure. And then in testing, we found that it's important to share the phone with the kids, that the kids are really great at navigating those digital landscapes and really innately use those widgets with almost no prompting, but that it is helpful for someone to narrate the directions and the steps of the different activities. And then we're really all about the phone being the catalyst that gets folks outside and might be the motivation, especially for young people to go out and have an adventure. But I found many, many times in doing these activities with kids that I will get them started on an activity and come back about 10 minutes later and the phone is nowhere to be seen. It's back in a pocket and they are just fully engaged with whatever is happening out there. So we are of the opinion that nature is much more interesting than any app, and that the app is really just a tool to connect and support that nature learning. We also have a section for educators. This is mostly focused on classroom educators. We have some of the reasons that and ways that this can support classroom learning, how it ties into what's already being expected to be taught in classrooms, and then some tips for how to make that happen. Kind of a step-by-step guide for integrating a passport activity into a lesson plan, as well as using a mobile device as a learning tool. Some of the things we found is that disabling the auto brightness on any device, and then just making sure that that the device is fully charged, and B, that then the auto brightness is up as far as it can go so you can interact with it outside. And then you can use plastic bags to protect the devices in the soggy Northwest. We found that to be really important, and it's a cheap, easy way to make sure that you can still use the device and the touch screen still works. Additionally, we also have some some lesson plans that are available for the initial pack that gets downloaded when you first download the app. So we're hoping to continue to add to this so that teachers have really tangible ways that they can integrate classroom learning with the activities that are already on the app. And we found that having the journal and having the fact that that kids can get into smaller groups, that they can record what it is that they're doing, that it makes it that much easier than to translate it back indoors when they're back in the classroom, that then they have this really nice digital memory that they can access to continue the learning inside. Additionally, IslandWood is really all about using schoolyards and taking the learning outside. So we've got lots of resources there to help support that that experience. So, sorry, I got the wrong screen. So those are just a few of the tips and tricks that are available on the website. Again, we really see this being used as extensions to currently existing programs. We're always open to identifying new partners and getting new content into the app, and just helping spread the word to use this as a tool for those that want to connect their kids with the benefits of outdoor time. And it's available for download right now on the Apple Store as well as Google Play. And we're excited to hear your thoughts on it. So with that, I'll go ahead and open it up for any questions anyone has.
Thank you so much, Kathy. So we do have a Q&A section, so you can go ahead and put questions in the Q&A, please. So, Kathy, there's one. My first question to you is, how can this be used maybe by groups? And actually, somebody just put this in there. How can this be connected specifically with like summer camps and maybe outdoor ed programs, like after-school programs that aren't quite so classroom based? So what would be your ideal use or recommendations for people wanting to use this app with their students or participants not in that classroom setting?
Yeah, absolutely. So for summer camps, I can really see this being used as it could be just a part of the day that is I mean, you could even do something where you build each day. There's time in the day to do, for example, the nature safari, so that you go on a safari, you're identifying things. Maybe there's small groups that then have access to the phone and can take pictures of the things that they find to be exciting and send them off and see what pops up in the morning as far as identification. So that's definitely a possibility. I think there's a lot of great ideas in there as well. And it can also be used then, I would say, at the end. I know for our summer camps, we usually have we have a family sharing time, what we call, at the end of our summer camp programs, and we do a little slideshow of everything that the kids did during that week. And and then we integrate the nature passport as the ending thing to say that, even if you haven't, you've finished your summer camp experience, but you can still do this type of activity with you wherever you go. And so that idea of making it available for them as an extension after their summer camp experience. I tested this with summer camp groups. We had multiple devices available to us, and so that was pretty easy to do. I think that's the one barrier with summer camp programming, is that if you don't have access to the devices, that can be a little bit challenging. Many kids do have their own devices, and so then it would just be about making sure that they get it downloaded, and it's you get approval from parents that you can use those devices in the programming. So a couple different ways that could look.
Great, thanks, Kathy. Another question, there's a lot of nature access projects for younger kids, 6th grade and under, but not so much for attracting young teens and older teens. The pictures and activities I'm seeing with your app also seem to be geared for that underage group of kids. What do you see the attraction being and used for teens and young adults? And yeah, I would extend that a little bit, Kathy, and say, do you guys have any plans for the Nature Passport app to reach a slightly older audience?
Absolutely. So we were trying to be very careful in the design that it doesn't come across as too young, because again, we want this to be a platform for a lot of different kinds of content. The content that currently exists is aimed for that younger age group. And that was by design. We felt that that was kind of a transformational age, and it's a place where kids get really excited about being outside, and so wanting to kind of speak to that age group. We have in our partner work with the Nature Project, which is an organization that does programming with professional athletes. They have been using the app as a way to connect with their participants afterwards. So one of the features of the journal section is when you are inside of a memory, you can create an image, a share image, that then can be posted with on social media. So even though our app is not connected with social media, it has that option of then creating an image that is shareable over social media. And so they're hoping to use the activities as sort of social media challenges that they can connect the professional athletes with the participants of the programs after the fact. So that's something where that we kind of thought that could be a nice niche for teens and young adults. So even though the activities that are in there currently, or the challenges that are in there currently, are not specifically geared towards young adults or teenagers, that it's a possibility that could be a place that we expand into. So there is potential for that, but in its current form, it really is more geared towards younger kids, towards upper elementary aged kids.
Great, thanks, Kathy. So one of the questions is, can this work if students don't have their own phones? So maybe what are some creative solutions to that? I think you sort of touched upon it in the summer camp situation, but.
Yeah, I think if students don't have their own phones, we have a few ideas for classroom teachers to be able to get a classroom set of devices. And I think that could also go for other kinds of programming as well. But it is true that it is designed specifically for a phone, for a smart device, and that is the intention of the device. So that's that's part of the prerequisites to being able to use it. I did find that many staff of different organizations that I visited were fairly willing to use their phone in programming. But again, I think that really depends on the organization, how you want to handle the interaction between a personal device being used for a program.
Great, thank you. Next question, would you consider partnering with park and open space programs to have content that is local, community-based, and geographically relevant?
That's a great question. It's something that we have definitely thought about. Our partners in Australia are currently piloting a paper version of the mobile app that then can be distributed and is geographically relevant and more place-based. The content that we have in the app, we have intentionally designed to be able to be used in a variety of settings. But we could envision a way where we have these paper-based, more specific to an area products that then point people back towards the app as an additional resource. So it's something that we have thought about. It's not currently in development yet, but we're waiting to hear back from our Australia partners to hear how that goes. So it is an idea we have considered. It's a great idea, and I think that's so relevant in environmental education, is to make sure that it's based in the places where people find themselves.
Kathy, do you feel, have you guys had more success with people using the app or kids using the app on phones or iPads when using them in programs?
Oh, that's a great question. I saw both. I saw the majority of the testing that I did was with phones. I saw some folks using them with iPads. I think iPads is really helpful, especially if you have a small group that's doing it, so that it's just easier to see, with the bigger screen. So I've seen both, and it's available with Google devices as well. And so we've tried to make it as accessible as possible. The one product that I found that I don't think it's compatible with yet is something like a different kind of tablet, like a Kindle or other kinds of tablets that programs sometimes have, or organizations sometimes have. But it really, if it's a tablet, it's an iPad that it would need to be on. So yeah, I've seen both used, and it really just depends on what's available. I think that the bigger screen is helpful for multiple kids taking a look at it. It's also possible then to project it. Again, this would be for more of a classroom space, but if you go back into a classroom, you can then project it back onto a screen so that everyone can see and see what's being projected. So that is helpful, but yeah, it just depends on what's available.
Fantastic, thank you. Are there more questions coming in? Somebody had asked about the best way to contact Kathy in the future, if there's more questions. So I'm going to be putting Kathy's contact info in the chat box. So her email, and it will also be in the follow-up email that we send to everybody along with the recording, but just for reference now, we've got Kathy's email popping up in that chat box.
And there also is, just to add to that, on the website as well, there is a request to get in contact with us. So so always feel free to use that as well. That makes its way to me as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, we have another comment. So maybe your thoughts on this one, Kathy, would be great. FYI, we find that once kids are introduced to nature, that we have a hard time holding that attachment in place as they grow older, because there's little programming designed for that age group, and teens become disillusioned and feel left behind and uncared for in this national nature awareness and interest program. We lose them in the age range where they are teens, still dependent on adults for transportation and safety, and at the age where they go through high school and enter college. Do you know, just from your education experience, Kathy, do you have or know of any other apps or programs that might address this age group?
Yeah, it's a really great question, and I absolutely can attest to that as well. I think that from my own personal philosophy and the research that I've done, that the teenage years really become a time when they have a little bit more autonomy and they can engage. And I've found that it's the places where people do become passionate about taking action. And so I would recommend getting involved in stewardship projects or volunteer situations or clubs. Is really a great way for teenagers to start to use their voice for the benefit of those around us. We have high schoolers that help with summer camp programs, and we found that to be a really effective way of, if they've gone through the program, then to come back in a leadership role. And then we also have programming that happens on our campus where we have high schoolers that come out and do field-based investigations. So where they get to really lead the learning. So they decide what it is that they want to study. They have the tools that are available here on site, and then they go out and do their own place-based programming where they ask a question and answer it and then have to present about it. And so that's been a really amazing program to be a part of, because they have that passion and that autonomy, and they can start to bring a little bit more of their own voice into how their experiences outside look. And it is true, though, that it can be tricky if they are dependent on adults for transportation or to get to places. But I really think anything that you can do that's action-based, that is helping them find their voice and become a leader, helps to translate then into future stewardship as an adult.
Thank you for that. That was a little side topic.
Yeah.
Great. So are there any other questions for Kathy while we have her, or about the Nature Passport app specifically? Cool. So fantastic. So as you see on the screen, we now have, where'd it go? It went away. So yep, there we go. So at Nature Passport. So easy ways to follow them on Facebook and Twitter. Again, there's the naturepassport.org website where you can find a lot of additional information as well as ability to contact the team and download the app. And I would just like to thank Kathy very much for your time today. This was awesome. This is such a cool tool and great resource for people to have. So thank you so much for taking the time to introduce us to it, explain a little bit about it, and your expertise and knowledge, not only as an educator, but on the app itself, has been fantastic.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for having us, and we hope everyone enjoys using it, and we're always open to feedback, as we are also a learning organization. So we appreciate everyone taking the time and sharing their voice with us.
Great, thanks so much. And everybody will get a copy of the recording automatically sent to them in the next day or two. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining us, and have a great week.